This fun crochet t-shirt poncho DIY has been popping up all over my feed recently. Basically, you just gotta get a t-shirt, cut the sides and sleeves off, figure out a way to get your yarn through the shirt, and crochet a granny stitch motif. There's more than one way to do each of these steps, and I tried a few and figured out which one I liked the best. Would I recommend doing it this way, hacking away at the sides with a pair of scissors? Well, it was a little sloppy, imprecise, and kind of stressful, but it worked. And fortunately, t-shirt fabric likes to curl under and hide your mistakes. What I actually would recommend is getting one of these cutting boards for sewing, and a rotary cutter. 45mm seems to be the standard. So trying to aim for the edge of the sleeve seam, check out how easily this setup cuts the sides of my t-shirt. Ah, so clean, and through both sides at the same time. I initially really wanted to do it with just the supplies that I had, but I really think the rotary cutter was worth it, and it comes in even more handy for this next part. So how do you figure out how far apart to put your stitches? I made a little 6x6 inch granny square with my 5mm hook and the yarn I intended to use. And I figured I would need a spot on my shirt for each chain space and each granny cluster. And it turned out that those spots were spaced about every ½ inch. On my practice shirt, I marked those ½ inch spaces with a pen. For my second attempt, I got a pack of perforating blades that fit my 45mm rotary cutter. Now these have 12 pokies all the way around. That was the lowest number pokey count rotary cutter that I could find, and I figured it would give me the largest spaced holes. So you can easily swap out these blades. And I unfurled my shirt this time because I wasn't too confident about going through both sides at the same time. So starting about 1 to 2 inches from the edge, press into the shirt and push up. And it creates these even little holes on the shirt. And would you believe it? They just so happen to be about 1/2 inch apart. Perfect. So I put holes along both sides. I probably went in towards the center of the shirt a little too much. I don't know if you need that much shirt between the edge and the holes, but I was a little concerned about how the holes would stretch or hold up after they had crochet dangling from them. So I wanted to make it a little more secure. If you are concerned about the integrity of the holes, I'd recommend this embroidery method of adding yarn to the shirt. I used what they call the chain stitch in embroidery. Definitely the most fiddly and time-consuming method that I tried. So it wasn't my personal favorite because I'm kind of impatient and I just want to get some crochet on these shirts. But it did add these neat V-shaped stitches to the edge of my shirt that was easy to work right into. The embroidery itself only pokes a needle-sized hole through the shirt, so you don't see any spots that might be prone to ripping or stretching. We'll do a little wash test later because I also tried crocheting right into the perforated cuts for my rotary cutter, and I also tried a row of single crochet into the holes. Okay, with all that prep, let's finally start crocheting onto the shirt. I chose cotton yarn in colors complementing the design on my shirt. Loops and threads cotton was a bit stiff compared to the drapiness of the t-shirt material. For the gray one, I used Hobby Lobby's I Love This Cotton, and it was much softer and drapier. And I used a 5.5mm hook, slightly larger than the yarn calls for. I think it would look nice to start with the same color as your shirt, but so you guys can see what I'm doing here, I'm going to use a contrasting color for the setup row. So you'll want to situate your shirt so that the outside is facing you. And if I stretch it a little bit, you can see the little holes that my cutter made. I was able to just get my hook right through there, bring a loop through, and I just kind of chained one with my tail included to fasten on. Insert your hook into the very next hole, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. In the next hole, insert, pull up a loop, and complete a single crochet. We are working a single crochet row along the edge into every perforated hole that I made. I think this is the best combo of quick and sturdy. Just be sure to not crochet too tightly or your shirt might bunch. After working into the very last hole, we've got an entire row of stitches along the edge of our shirt. You could work any stitch pattern that you'd like now, but we're going to keep it granny. In that same color, I'm going to chain up 3 and turn my work. This counts as a double crochet. I'll chain 1 more for the chain space, and you can skip the single crochet directly below your chain and the next single crochet, and into the 3rd single crochet from the row below, work a granny stitch with 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, a total of 3 double crochets all into that stitch, and chain 1. Skip the next stitch from the row below, and into the stitch after, work a granny. Chain 1, skip 1, granny. Continue working the granny stitch along the single crochet row until you get to your last few stitches. Odds are that you'll end up with an extra or a missing stitch since our single crochet count wasn't determined by our granny pattern. So here's what you can do. Work the granny stitch pattern as far as you can, and then you could just chain 1 and work 1 double crochet into the last stitch. I'm going to work my last double crochet into this little chain from where I fastened on just to give myself an extra stitch there. And with 1 double crochet and row 1 is done. For row 2, you can change color. I pulled up a long loop, inserted my hook back into the last stitch of the double crochet, and pulled up the new color. Then you can pull out the old color and you're ready to go. For row 2, you'll chain 3 and turn, which counts as a double crochet. And we'll complete our first granny stitch right away by working 2 more double crochets into that first chain space. Chain 1. And in the next chain space, work a granny stitch. Chain 1, granny into the chain space. Continue working the granny stitch pattern in each chain space across the row. And when you reach the end of your row, you've got 1 more chain space, so work 2 double crochet into the chain space, and 1 final double crochet into the 3rd chain of that turning chain from the previous row. And that completes row 2. We'll change color again. And this will be a repeat of row 1. So chain 3 plus 1 more, so really chain 4, and turn. Now all you have to do is work into the chain 1 spaces. So put your granny stitch in that chain space. And chain 1. And continue in the granny stitch pattern. And then once I've shown you what to do at the end of this row, you'll pretty much have all the info you need to grow your poncho. So after your last granny stitch, chain 1, and into the top of your turning chain 3 from the previous row, work 1 double crochet. And that's your repeat. Work those 2 rows until your poncho is as wide as you'd like. You can play with the color changes as well. I alternated the shirt color every other row with this one. And I just changed color every row with the gray t-shirt. I wound up with 14 rows of granny stitch on either side until I ran out of yarn, but I think they would look amazing if the sides were even longer. And now we're ready for the music festival. These are so breezy and fun to wear. I happen to be like 7 months pregnant, so yours probably won't fit quite like this. I bet you'd resemble more my friend Betty here. And if you're curious, I normally wear a small, and I got medium t-shirts for this project because I wanted the oversized fit. All that's left to do is check in with our wash test. So I washed and dried both of these 3 times, and not very gently, I might add. The yarn really didn't appreciate it, but I did it for science. So let's check out each type of joining to the shirt. The single crochet edge into the perforated holes did not seem to stretch out, and the holes look about the same size as they were before all the aggressive washing. Same goes for when I crocheted the granny stitch right into the holes themselves, which was nice to see because I really liked how this looked. And as expected, the embroidery edge has no visible holes in the shirt and held up nicely. So that is how you can go about upcycling an old t-shirt into a poncho with crochet. I hope you enjoyed this project, and let me know if you have any other ideas about crochet that we can add to clothes. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!